Hello guys, I'm Combo Movie Film Productions. I wasn't expecting to make a video about this subject, but since everybody is so petrified by this and also a lot of false information has been spread, I feel like I need to give my quick thoughts on this. I'm not worried about this, and neither should you. First off, let's go over what supposedly went down. Considering it's actually quite different than most people think it went down, due to most of the people boycotting Sony didn't really read the story apart from the headlines. So here's what went down. Spider-Man's current contract between Sony and Disney ended with the release of Far From Home, with it only being a 5-picture deal. The deal was that Sony would make the movie and do the marketing and get 95% of the box office, while Disney would get 5%, get all the merchandising rights, and would get Spider-Man in the MCU. Not to mention the fact that the movies Spider-Man was in that weren't standalone movies such as Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, Sony didn't get a penny for despite Spider-Man being in them. For the most part, it was beneficial for both companies, and then Far From Home came out and things started to get out of hand. First, Sony was going to drop Spider-Man from the MCU if the film didn't make at least $1 billion at the box office, and now this recording, Deadline reported that Sony and Disney didn't come to an agreement for a new deal, and now Spider-Man won't be in the MCU anymore. Despite Tom Holland and John Watts still have 2 more Spider-Man films to do. That's the basics. Many people have blamed Sony for the deal going sour, and now people are rioting against Sony. The stars of the Spider-Man films have unfollowed Sony, people are starting petitions, etc. But here's what supposedly broke the deal. Disney wanted more from this contract, which is fine considering how well Far From Home is done, along with the previous films the Wallcrawler appeared and also being big successes. But reportedly, Disney wanted not only to have half of the film's box office revenue for the Spider-Man films, but co-financing and co-owning rights to Sony's Spider-Verse. So they wanted Morbius, Venom 2, and any other film Sony is playing in their universe on the road, which is their biggest franchise to date. Most people think that Sony just cheaped out, and I don't blame them because of how Sony wanted Far From Home to reach $1 billion, but seeing that Disney wanted more money and control over Sony, because if this deal went through, Sony basically would have lost its power to Disney. Say what you want about how Sony's handling their universe, but that's bad business, and considering how poorly they are treating Fox at the moment, which deserves its own video, it's understandable why Sony didn't agree to these terms, and they even responded to this mess of a situation in the politest way possible. Don't get me wrong, both these companies are greedy, but look at how much of a juggernaut Disney is right now. They've made 5 movies that have crossed $1 billion market this year alone, with more to come out along with making money from merchandise, theme parks, TV shows, they're launching their own streaming service in November, and so much more. While Sony really only has PlayStation to back them up, and they don't have many hits that aren't super related apart from the exceptions of Baby Driver and Jumanji. And also reportedly, Sony wanted to renegotiate with Disney and was willing to split the box office revenue to 70-30. That's a really good deal. But because Disney wanted to monopolize the market, I guess, they wanted more, and now look at what they've caused. I'm not trying to be anti-Disney or anything, but since they've painted Sony as a bad guy, and everybody that doesn't know how business works is painting a story that just isn't true. I think both these companies have a lot of positives and negatives, but what I'm saying is that before you rant on Instagram about how Sony is ruining the MCU, make sure to read the full story before you do. And I was with the community about boycotting Sony, until I watched the John Campea show that covered the full article, so the link to that video will be in the description. But anyways, enough with the boring business jargon, let's get into what all you guys came here for, the wall crawler himself. So first off, reportedly negotiations are still in the works between Sony and Disney to make a deal together, a source told IGN, which isn't the best source but it's something. If that's true, why did they publicly announce the departure if the negotiations are complete? I'm guessing this is a stunt so one of the companies gets lunch mobbed and they get peer pressured enough to agree to a new deal. But anyways, besides that, what's the future of Tom Holland as Spider-Man? Well, as I stated previously, he and John Watts, the director of Homecoming and Far From Home, still have 2 more Spider-Man films left in their contracts, at least for Holland. They're supposed to be outside the MCU, but despite how hard they can try, they will always be in the MCU regardless, making Venom and any other film Sony makes into MCU films basically. Or they could just get Tobey back for a 4th film. But what I'm trying to say is that he's technically not leaving the MCU because Tom Holland will always be tied with the MCU. It's just a fact. He interacted with the Avengers. Unless they retcon his appearance in Doctor Strange 2 since that deals with multiverses, but I believe Spider-Man will come back to the MCU eventually. Whether it's through Sony being willing to accept Disney's offer, if they back off the greed a little bit, Sony getting bought out by another studio and the rights transferring over, or a variety of other reasons. First off, I think Spider-Man 3 with Spider-Man being all alone would honestly benefit the movie because it would allow Peter to complete his arc that started in Civil War without him not being Iron Man Jr. but continuing Tony's legacy as his own hero. And possibly the other film could be a live-action Spider-Verse movie with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and whoever they could bring back. Maybe even bring in the Spider-Verse animated characters, which is another reason I'm not that worried. Sony has proven in the past that they can make great Spider-Man movies, with the exceptions of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man films and Venom, which does have the potential to get better with Andy Serkis being involved. My thing is that Sony, if they hired the right teams, can make some very cool Spider-Man films. I'm not saying I have full faith in Sony, or I'm glad that Spider-Man won't be with his MCU peers for possibly a very long time, but it's refreshing to see another studio making Marvel movies since Fox is basically done with their X-Men films, and at this point I doubt Disney's gonna release New Mutants. So it's nice that we don't just have the MCU as in terms of Marvel content, and also we could get Spider-Man 3 earlier than we expected. Considering how packed Phase 4 is for the MCU, another Spider-Man film wouldn't have come out for another 3 to 4 years. So that's another positive, and getting that Venom crossover would be interesting to see on screen to say the least, and would at least be better than Tobey Maguire and Topher Grace.
My God, Eddie!
Ooh, my spider sense is tingling. If you know what I'm talking about.
Overall, I think fans shouldn't be worried about Spider-Man quote-unquote leaving the MCU. Tom Holland will still play the character, and Sony could give the wall crawler more focus than Kevin Feige is doing at the moment, due to the fact that he has so much on his plate right now. But it all falls on Sony. They could screw this up badly like they did for Andrew Garfield's universe, and with Venom, I'm not 100% for the Spider-Verse yet, but I think this does open up a lot of possibilities to be more Spider-Man-centric. And I can bet that we will see Spider-Man rejoining with the Avengers at some point down the road. It's the equivalent to Hobbs and Shaw right now, spinning off into his own franchise because of the beef The Rock and Vin Diesel had on previous Fast and Furious films, and that's why The Rock and Jason Statham won't be in Fast 9, but we'll probably be back for Fast 10. I'm just saying, Spider-Man going away for a while isn't the end of the world. It's not great news, but far from atrocious due to Sony's history, which also is a double-edged sword. Time will tell if Sony makes the right moves for this character, but for now, we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What do you think about this situation, and are you Team Sony or Disney? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, and please make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I'm Combo Movie Productions, signing out.